get this team over the proverbial hump next year, because if you don't, then you're going to start looking at, I know that his job security is pretty solid because Tom Benson loves it, and because he delivered the team a world title. But as you guys have probably seen in some of my recent articles, I feel that the Super Bowl 44 has a statute of limitations, and that was 7 years ago when they won that championship. And to me, and this is just me, other coaches in the league have been fired for much less. Winning coaches with winning records have gotten fired. And Sean Payton still has a job after 3 losing seasons. So to me, if he doesn't get it done next year, then we have to call into question the mental capacity of the owner at that point, because 4 straight losing seasons, and if he kept him, then man, you're talking about a mutiny on your hands with this fan base. They've been very tolerant, they've been very patient, and I totally get why it is what it is, but at some point you're gonna have to you're gonna have to make a decision if you're Tom Benson as far as the future of your team and where it's headed, because you cannot keep a head coach in power who's basically just turning in 7-9 every year. You got to start winning at some point. And Drew Brees, that's another factor. His contract, of course, expires after next season, assuming they don't do another extension. How long is he going to play? He'll be turning 39 when his contract expires next year. So you would figure he maybe has one more run, 2 to 3 year window after that contract expires. So is he going to come back and play into his early 40s, hang it up? So I think a lot of that goes as far as what happens with Sean Payton. I think that's going to go hand in hand. And so 2017 is going to be an interesting season all the way around as far as draft, as far as free agency. Is there anybody out there in free agency that you can get this year? Because to me, it's one of the weaker free agency classes in quite some time. There's no big mega star that, to me, just based on the guys that I know coming out as far as how they would impact the Saints. But I just don't see them making a big splash in free agency. I think the draft is the way to go. And based on how well they've drafted the last 2 years, to me, it's the way to go again. And you can hit on a few more of these picks. If you can hit on a Derek Barnett, if you can hit on a Raekwon McMillan, who we'll touch on next, because Brian wanted me to touch some of my picks on the top. Look, if you can get a few guys like that, man, this team can get good quick. I mean, these guys can go from a mediocre 7-9 football team to a annual playoff contender just that quick. I mean, look, Seattle did it in no time flat. They were horrible a couple years ago after Mike Holmes and Pete Carroll got there. Him and John Schneider put together a bunch of solid drafts, and in 2-3 years time, they're in the Super Bowl, back-to-back Super Bowls, as a matter of fact. So it can be done. It's just it's all about making solid decision making, in your front office, and you can go and look at Tennessee. Titans are the perfect, to me. They're a textbook example. You draft Mariota, you get Delaney Walker, you sign DeMarco Murray in free agency, and then all of a sudden, just that quick, you're doing great.
Barry, I'm glad you brought up the idea of the way in which you see the Saints going as far as free agency and the draft is concerned. I kind of brought that up early in the show with Rev, and I know this is going to make some Saints fans go straight jacket crazy when I say it, but in my opinion, as you stated, this isn't a great free agent class. I don't think the Saints are going to go after many guys defensively. In fact, if any at all, unless it's kind of like more of a Nate Stupar type of, Craig Robertson type of move. I don't think they're going to go after a big fish, per se, when it comes to free agency. I think they'll go defensively. They'll go in the draft. And I think through free agency, the Saints will actually try to find more offensive talent, especially along the offensive line than one might believe. So, and I know you want to get to the rest of the draft, but they kind of touched on it exactly the way I think I've been having an inkling in which it's going to go. I don't think the Saints are going to try to sign free agents. I think they may try to acquire via trade and kind of just I guess inhale some of that salary since they have so much cap space. So I wanted to touch on that really quickly, as well as get to the rest of your picks as far as the Raekwon McMillan and so on and so forth.
Before you jump into that, I know Kyle had a question for Barry, so I want to make sure he gets that in before we move any farther forward. You there, Kyle?
Hey, what's going on, B? And Brian, and how y'all doing, man?
Go ahead, man. I'm here. I'm listening.
Oh, you're listening? Well, it's good to hear your voice again, Doc. All I can say is this. I agree with everything you just said, Barry, especially about Sean Payton. 40 percentile as a coach the past 3 seasons, that's a failing grade in my opinion. But just to say this, man, I was thinking about what you and Brian were saying as far as how the Saints could possibly draft. And one free agent, we just played against this guy this past weekend. Do you think we will have an opportunity to go after Campbell, or is he worth going after?
Well, if they can afford it, yeah, I think Calais Campbell, as you saw it when he ran the fumble back, still got quite a bit of gas left in the tank. I wouldn't have a problem with it. Always use another defensive end, talented guy like that. Look, I'd have no problem with Calais Campbell. I wouldn't even have a problem with a Jason Pierre-Paul. It's just that again with the Saints, it's about how aggressive they plan on being. Given how bad they've done in free agency.
Well, I mean, if there is any position in this free agency that does have some room to wiggle around it, there's a bunch of edge rushers, and not old edge rushers either. I mean, Chandler Jones, Melvin Ingram, Jabal Sheard, guys that you just named. There's several. Carolina's got, Addison, Mario, several people who are now going to be available in a position that we have a desperate need for. So while there's not a lot of elite names, you don't have the Chris Harris Jr.'s and the Mike Evans and the Julio Jones and all up for buying. You do have a lot of people to chase after that in terms of positions that we need.
Yeah, and Melvin Ingram, that's another name to remember for the San Diego Chargers edge rusher. He's probably maybe the most underrated edge rusher that's going to be in free agency. And a matter of fact, one of the free agency articles that I wrote on about the Saints and upcoming free agency, he was one of the guys I said, did I mention this should target because, he's going to probably want to leave San Diego and look, he can come to the Saints and start. So, there's definitely some players. I just wonder personally just how aggressive they plan on being. They might shock us. They might go out and make a bunch of splash moves. We'll find out. But I think, and as Brian started to allude to it, I think you got Jari Evans. Jari Evans, he was released and then they brought him back. I think he's near retirement. So, you're going to need a new right guard.
You have been muted. To unmute yourself, press the star key twice.
Zeitler from Cincinnati Bengals, I think is the top guard in free agency. So, would you go after Kevin Zeitler and try to bring him in to be a free agency? So, there's a couple ways they can go. And there's a couple players out there. Chandler Jones certainly would be a guy I'd look at. There's a couple intriguing names out there that I'd certainly like to see them being played for. We'll just have to see how it shakes out. I believe at the moment they have approximately $25 million. I think it is almost 30 maybe to spend on free agency. The number keeps going back up and down. I know it's over 20 and maybe as high as 30. Maybe Deuce can find it out for us, the exact number. But they have money to spend, Of course, even in years when they allegedly don't have money to spend, they always manage to sign somebody. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But I totally agree. I mean, this team is only a couple of key additions in certain positions of really becoming a very good football team, an edge rusher. You're obviously going to need another middle linebacker. I mean, Stephon Anthony just went on IR today. We don't know what his future is with the team. Laurinaitis was a god-awful bust that I tried to warn everybody about back in February, and nobody would listen to me, and got released from the team. Craig Robertson is a very nice player, and I like what he's done. He's done a phenomenal job filling in, but he's not the future of the team at middle linebacker. And I laugh at fans who don't understand the game and think that Craig Robertson is the answer for the Stephon Anthony problem, quote unquote. I love what Craig Robinson's done, and I hope they obviously keep him around because he's a great addition to the team. But if you think Craig Robertson is the future of the New Orleans Saints at middle linebacker, you're going to be tremendously disappointed. So that's a position that has to be addressed, and hopefully they'll address it in the NFL draft. A position that's got a lot of good players. Cornerback. We've seen how this position's been devastated by injuries this year. So I think you need to get a guy on the outside boundary opposite of Delvin Breaux. I know P.J. Williams is supposed to be that guy, but P.J. has shown so far in his first 2 years that he's injury prone. He's got a lot of talent. I know that. There's no denying how talented P.J. Williams is. The problem is, kind of like Dannell Ellerbe, is that is he ever going to stay on the field? Is he ever going to stay on the field long enough to make an impact? So I think cornerback, and you see a lot of mocks out there from the national guys that have the Saints picking a cornerback. I don't think they'll pick number one, like Todd McShay and all these guys who obviously don't cover the Saints daily, so they have no idea of what their team needs actually are. This is why they put, cornerback number one. But I do see the Saints going after cornerback. I just don't think they'll go that high with it. But you need another cover corner opposite of Breaux. So that's the position you're going to have to address. Obviously, as I said, a guard. And with, hopefully Armstead's going to get back to health next year. But then you're going to have, right tackle. Streif's had a great year. And I'll be the first to give, because I was on Zach Streif's case hard last year. I was one of his biggest critics and detractors last year. And he's had a phenomenal year. And kudos to him for shutting me up, because I was on his, as I said, I was on his case big time. And he shut me up, and he proved me wrong, and kudos to him for doing it. But that said, he's in his 11th year, and we don't know how much longer he's going to, we don't know that he's even going to be able to put together another year like the one he's had this year. So is Andrew Peat going to be the right tackle? That's what he was drafted to be. But we've seen him struggle this year. So we don't even know what his future holds. I mean, the 2015 draft, for all the potential it had, all of a sudden now all your top picks in the first half of the 2015 draft could all be bust. He might be a bust. Anthony might be a bust. Grayson apparently is a bust. Kikaha isn't a bust, but he's injury prone because he keeps blowing out the same knee every other year. So you might have your first 4 picks in the 2015 draft all wash out. So that's just the kind of crazy luck this team has had. With rebuilding this team, it's been a tough go. Free agency, with Brandon Browner, C.J. Spiller, and Kobe Fleener, apparently, James Laurinaitis. I mean, you look at how many players that they signed in free agency that had not worked out in the last 2.5, 3 years. It's unbelievable. And then when you throw in all these, So basically, the entire 2014 draft didn't work out, save for Brandin Cooks.